There is a 27.6% increase in edible use before sex post-COVID. And that people are saying that there's a 5.6% increase in orgasms.
Josephine and Billy's, come again. Welcome to the Green Room. On this episode, we're in an Exposition Park dispensary called Josephine and Billy's, which its founders are calling the first dispensary by and for women of color. What does that mean? What's on the shelves? We're going to talk to the founders inside.
So the name was to pay homage to those two women. They were persecuted for their cannabis consumption, and yet they used their art to fight against injustice. They rejected the mainstream, and they wrote their own rules, all while holding the door open for others who would come after. And for us, that was goals AF. That's what we wanted for this kind of franchise. And so if we're going to go forth in a cannabis industry, and especially when we're talking about social equity and how do we make amends for communities of color, I thought that it would be only fitting to be able to bring, the names forth of women who've paid prices.
This case is dedicated to brands.
Women-led, Black-led, LGBTQ-led brands. So we've got Bico here, Ball Family Farms, just so people know the importance of being able to support these sort of brands in this industry. It really does.
And you have little informational things so people, again, will learn about it.
All around the store.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things is that because of your relationship with Ball Family Farms, they created for you two exclusively available here strains.
Right now, they're only available as pre-rolls. We're looking for things that women would enjoy.
Right.
And so we thought, okay, we'll have one that's an uplift,
Which one is the uplift? That's the Josephine, right?
That's the Josephine.
See, I learned that.
And then there's a relax.
Right.
And that one's fun if you want to be creative
Billy,
and hang out or maybe even feel sexy.
Right.
That's Billy.
This has been a long journey. This has been 3 years in the making. The process for social equity opened up here in the city, qualifying in 2018. So that was, for me, how this began.
The way your rapport with Ebony and the way you interact, it's as if you're like fast friends for forever. But Ebony came into this process about 18 months ago.
She came in as the house was burning. So what ended up happening was,
It's called trauma bonding.
yeah. My partners had fallen out. I was at the point in time where I knew that I needed to figure out how I was going to get new investors on and how I was going to package this. Initially, I knew that I wanted to have a concept that focused on women of color.
Whitney is the dreamer, right? She has all these ideas and concepts. And so I said, well, what do you have? And she shows me a Pinterest board. And since that day, I don't know how many times I tell her, but I'm like, Pinterest boards are not plans. They are not plans.
I'm like, I've got a vision. This is what it is. Look at all these it's this bit and this bit and this bit.
Whitney and Ebony need investors to make Josephine and Billy's a reality, big and small investors. One of the most high-profile investments came from the parent company, sometimes referred to by its initials, TPCO, a multi-brand cannabis company that counts Jay-Z as its chief visionary officer. That company's social equity venture fund chose Josephine and Billy's as its first investment.
TPCO invested in our idea. They invested in what we were doing, and that is hugely significant.
We had already had plans submitted. We had it designed. Every inch of the space was already designed, engineered, and we really had already gotten going.
Setting aside these sort of funds to invest in businesses like this really changes the game for social equity because we have not seen these sort of investments coming into this space. VCs are investing 2% of their money in women-led businesses. And when we're talking about women of color-led businesses, we're talking about 0.0006% of dollars going to women of color-led businesses.
And Josephine and Billy's is designed by a Black woman. I did it. I wrote it. You can see the sketches. And they came from Whitney's Pinterest ideas and her boards, and we did this together. And I think it's so important for us to say that because we can't see a lot of spaces like that in our normal lives every day. And we created something that our children and the women that work here and people who just come in and visit get an opportunity to see what that looks like. every time they come into this store. And that's important because it doesn't happen all the time. It's very, very rare.
Our goal is not to have a space where we're excluding anybody. Our goal is to have a space where this particular demographic feels welcome
And safe.
Some people are like, well, I don't want to, I don't want to smoke, but a bath bomb is a fantastic way to also use cannabis. And it's funny because like the first time someone suggested them to me, I was like, oh, I don't know if that's going to do anything, but I swear to you, I put that thing in there and I was like, I darn near drowned. I was like, I was so relaxed. It is so
THC or is it? Okay.
Yes, it felt like a massage came up out of that bathtub and was like, Calgon, take me away. It
And
was
tell
amazing.
me a woman who doesn't deserve that moment. And I think as men, that's a wonderful way to support the women in your life, right? You may not bring them a pre-roll, but you could easily bring your mom a bath bomb or some type of balm. I even got my grandmother to use balms on her hands for arthritis. And this is a woman who is very conservative. And I have educated her on the healing properties of cannabis. And now I have my grandmother asking me, hey, where's my chocolate?
Why is the education key into serving the customers that you're trying to attract?
So communities of color have been disproportionately disenfranchised by a war on drugs for years. And part of that almost builds up something that's like a PTSD. When you've had your community has been damaged by a war on drugs, it makes you very reticent to try the plant.
And I also think when we talk about education, it's the way that we consume cannabis. We educate on the different types.
Billy's terpene breakdown is important because our store is designed by terpene profile. And that's important because it helps customers understand how the products that they're going to purchase has the ability to make them feel. You wanted to, hey, I'm looking to relax. You know that you want to find products that have myrcene in them.
High in myrcene,
High
right?
in myrcene.
Because there's a whole bunch of terpenes in everything, right?
Exactly. So it could have 5, 6, 7 terpenes.
Okay.
But you want something that has its first terpene and myrcene because it's a sedating terpene with an earthy and herbal scent. It promotes relaxation, which means that it'll be good for sleep. So if you're looking for that, it's easy to know you can turn around.
It also, I think, takes the fear out, right? So I'm one of those people who have anxiety. Some strains or some cultivars, as we call them in cultivation, really amplify that.
Right.
And for me, being couch locked is not good for my anxiety because all that happens is I'm in my mind and I'm freaking out, right?
Right.
So if you've had that experience, you don't want to touch cannabis anymore. But what you learn is that if I can find the right products that work with my body, then I don't have that experience.
So like the optometrist, which better, this or this, right?
One or
Either
two,
this or this.
3 or 4,
And I always
exactly.
go back.
And that's the same thing that we do with our labels. We wanted to have label information on all of our products, and we give top terpene information, and it's on little champagne glasses because I'm a mom too. I've got a 7-year-old. I need to know, is this like having a glass of champagne or is this having 5 glasses of champagne and my kid is choking and I can't do anything because I'm like,
The theme itself, while some would call speakeasy, that's not a term that you like, and that fits into...
People of color were not at speakeasies. We were at tea pads because at that point in time, people were still...
During Prohibition.
This is during Prohibition. People were still separate. Right. Tea pads were the places where people of color were. That's where they were there drinking and being able to consume cannabis. And especially, we saw this culture across the country, but also very much in Harlem during the Renaissance. And it was a place, not only were they doing this consuming, but it was an age of enlightenment where we saw people coming together for art, for jazz, for poetry, philosophy, literature, just the exchange of big ideas. And that's, something that really attracted us to it because not only is this a place to, buy cannabis, but we wanted to share education. We wanted to bring these amazing people together in one space and build a community.
So you're going to tell me what these are? What do we have?
These are... No, I'm not going to tell you.